Hey everyone, Ethan here from WordTech. I've got a review video for you guys today, but I want to start off first by saying that I know there hasn't been a video out for quite a while. I just want to apologize for that. I've been going through the process of getting a new job, as well as I've been sick for a little over a week. Still a little bit right now, but anyway, just for those of you that may be wondering, that's why you haven't seen videos on the channel in a while. It will be more consistent here again starting this week. So I do apologize ahead of time for that, but watch out for a video from Mirko this Friday as well. So anyway, I've actually got a review of a Rosewill mouse here, which is the RGM-400. So RGM, Rosewill Gaming Mouse, is what I'm assuming that's designed to stand for. But anyway, yeah, it's a gaming mouse here from Rosewill. They sent it over to us, and so far I'm actually really liking it. I've tested it for about 2 weeks now. I've been playing around with it, using it, playing Overwatch and stuff like that, and I'm pretty impressed for the price tag that this fills. It's a $15 mouse is generally what you see the price for. It does fluctuate up and down some depending on the different retailers, but like at the time of filming on Amazon, it is $30 or $15. So yeah, anyway, yeah, it's a $15 price point. It does fluctuate up and down a little bit, but at the time of filming, it's $14.99 on Amazon. And for $15, there's not a lot of very good gaming mice. In fact, most of them are garbage. So it was nice to see something that's pretty decent in that price range. So let's jump straight into it. So to start with the overall build, which for those of you that haven't watched this channel before, build is generally going to be more like build quality, not design. That's a little bit of a different area, but just how it feels and how it seems like it's going to hold up. So I usually start with the cable. So the cable here is just your standard, pretty thin rubber cable. Nothing super special there, but I wouldn't expect something amazing from a $15 mouse. But it's not braided. It does have a little capacitor at the end, which some higher end mice don't have. Of course, that generally just hangs out the back of your computer. It won't weight it down really much or anything. But it is a lightweight enough cable that it doesn't feel like it's going to really get in the way of anything or anything like that. It's not going to snag on anything, and it's not going to be irritating. It's pretty lightweight overall mouse, actually. A standard USB plug, nothing special about that. It does have a little Velcro wrap though, and I do like to see that because even some higher end mice don't have these, and I hate that because I like to take my stuff everywhere, and when I can't wrap up the mouse and I have to like find a rubber band or something, it's just a pain in the butt. But moving on to the mouse itself. So overall, it actually is pretty solid feeling. It doesn't like crack a lot and stuff if you put a lot of pressure on it. It does feel like cheap plastic, and I'm assuming it is pretty thin, cheap plastic, but it still feels like it could take a decent beating for a mouse. You know, maybe don't rage too hard on it, but I think it would be totally fine generally for the occasional accident or throwing it in a bag and not worrying about it. It feels like it would hold up pretty well to that. These mouse feet though are actually really thin, and that's one concern area I have, is a little bit of a worry there that the mouse feet might wear off really quickly, and once they wear down, it's just you're flat on the bottom of the mouse. So just keep that in mind. I'm not sure how quickly they wear off. I haven't tested it for, you know, a couple of years or anything like that, but they do seem a little bit thinner than a lot of other mice out there. But overall, I mean, the build quality is pretty good. It's a bit of a fingerprint magnet on the surface. It's not terrible. It is a matte coating, but it's still definitely oily. It looks very oily. And there's a little bit of a glossy part in the center here, but that you don't really touch, so it doesn't matter too much anyway. Now, back over here on the left side of the mouse, we have your forward and backward buttons that can, you know, you can set in game to do all kinds of other things, but just basic forward and backward button, as well as the middle mouse wheel clicks in, and your right and left click. No other extra buttons or doohickeys on the surface of the mouse. But when you do move it around to the bottom, it does have a couple of interesting things. So it is an optical mouse. You see the optical sensor right here, but down here are a couple of switches. And there have been some other mice that do this, but not a lot of them, and especially not at a $15 price point. And it's something I like to see. Most mice, you adjust their DPI through software. Some of them do have like DPI switchers on them and stuff, but you have to look into the manual to find out what DPI it is that those different lights or whatever on it may be. You know, and generally you're cycling between them. You don't set it to right what you want as quickly as you could with software. Software sometimes helps with those mice, but this actually has a really good setup when it comes to the DPI adjustment on it that I personally like. So it has 3 DPI levels, but it's a switch on the bottom here. You just set it to the DPI level you want out of 500, 1000, and 1750 DPI. So it's nice to have a little switch there. Again, some other mice do have DPI switches, but most of them aren't this kind of style here, where it's kind of a set it and forget it style. They're dynamic, and I also hate it sometimes I bump the DPI switch button on a mouse, and it you know, changes DPI like crazy. So usually I just turn them off anyway, whereas this is nice, it's just built in. There is no software for this mouse though, so keep that in mind. That's why it's on there. This mouse is designed to work as a standalone, which generally I'm totally fine with, but it is there. Next to that though, there's another switch, and this is actually the polling rate switch. Now personally, I don't know why you'd ever run it under the maximum of 1000 hertz, but the switch is there. It does have 125, 500, and 1000 hertz polling rate switch. So just a nice little added feature there that you have control of, since you can't control it in software, because again, there is no software for this. Overall though, build quality, I give it probably I'd say a A-, so to speak, or you know, a 7 or 8 out of 10 when it comes to the build for this price point. Maybe even a 9. It's definitely a very good build for the price point. But to move on to design on this mouse is kind of hit and miss. I've been really happy with some parts of it, and I hate other parts of it. So I'll explain more. So the overall general look of the mouse is very basic, pretty simple. It does have a little bit of a kind of a nice curve to it. I think it looks good. It's a good shape. It doesn't look bad. It doesn't look like something really weird sitting on your desk. Could even pass as a business mouse if it weren't for a few things that I have complaints about later. But overall, I feel like it does look pretty good. Again, it is a little bit of an oil fingerprint magnet on the surface clicks here. That's to be expected with a lot of mice that have this kind of texture, this kind of matte texture on them. But you know, for $15, I'm not going to expect them to go to something super premium, but you know, it's definitely a little bit of a fingerprint magnet. And the glossy area in between here, which you won't be touching very much, but in between the clicks there's a gloss area right behind the scroll wheel, and it is pretty fingerprint heavy, and it also scratches pretty easy. I personally don't like seeing glossy plastic on pretty much anything. I've complained about that in a lot of other videos. I feel like manufacturers should just move away from it, spend the extra cent and get the matte, you know, the glossy plastic. You know, it looks good until it gets fingerprints on it and it gets scratched, so there's not really much of an advantage to it. And you know, the areas right above the scroll wheel here is also gloss, and that's something I could see my finger rubbing on a lot, and so that's going to pick up fingerprints. It could get scratched even with something like a fingernail, so keep that in mind. But overall, it's not terrible, and the scroll wheel I think also looks cool. Actually, I think the design of the scroll wheel is a pretty unique design, and there's a couple transparent areas on it. So this mouse actually does light up. That's something to that you rarely see on like $15 mice. That's generally like the 25 and up range from what I've seen personally myself. But this one here, it lights up green only. And despite all the switches on the bottom, you can't turn that off at all. The green's always on. And you know, for me, I like green, but a lot of people, that's not gonna match their setup. And when you're making a $15 mouse, which is gonna be for the person that doesn't have a lot of money to spend on RGB or something, I don't feel that color coding without the ability to turn it off is a good idea. The rest of the mouse is black. It'd match anything, no problem at all. But with the bright green scroll wheel and bright green logo on the back here, it makes it kind of challenging for people. You know, there's a lot of budget-oriented stuff out there that's like red, say for example. This isn't gonna match with that. They're gonna have to find another budget mouse. And this is a good budget mouse. I don't wanna stray people away from that, but if it doesn't match your build and it looks super ugly on your desk, it doesn't matter how good of a mouse it is for the price point. Most people aren't gonna want that. So that's probably my biggest gripe when it comes to design, is the inability to turn it off. It is nice to see LEDs on a mouse at this price point, but what's not nice is that, you know, they're only one color and you can't turn them off. If they were just white or something, that'd be one thing too, but green doesn't match a lot of things. And frankly, the majority of setups are gonna be blue, black, or red. So green's actually kind of narrowing the market down further than they would if it was, say, red. I wouldn't be knocking, you know, so much off of this just because it's got, you know, green if it was red instead. But other than that and the glossy plastic, I do like the design myself pretty well. It does look, you know, it's somewhat aggressive from the front but subtle on the back. I like it. I think it looks good. You know, obviously that's a personal preference. Now to move on to actual performance, and this is where you know, a mouse matters most, is the performance of a mouse, and especially on the budget end. It doesn't matter how good it looks, doesn't matter how long it's gonna last if it performs like crap. There's a ton of people that play like a lot of esports and stuff like that that are playing on lower end machines, because a lot of the esport games such as, you know, CSGO, League, even Overwatch to an extent, are built to run on lower end computers that aren't gonna have as many issues you know, pushing high frames on them. They're built for that, and those people, you know, that's to pull more people in. And so budget-oriented gaming mice that are actually good and actually track accurately is really important. Now, this is running an optical sensor. I'm actually not 100% sure what sensor it is, but I've so far actually been very impressed with it for the $15. It is overall a very good sensor. I've been happy with you know, it's a little bit of a lightweight mouse for me myself, but if you like lightweight mice, you're definitely going to like this. And the sensor tracks very, very accurately. I just set mine to 1,000 polling rate and 1750 DPI, which is pretty close to what I normally play with. I play with 1600 DPI. And honestly, I felt like I was playing pretty close to as good as I was with my Logitech G700S Laser, which is a, you know, $80 mouse that's been around for 5 years, used to be like $100. So considering this is $15, and it, you know, it is optical, but considering it's $15 and the tracking, I didn't actually feel like I was at a huge disadvantage while using this mouse. That is a pretty important thing that I think a lot of people need to pay attention to. And a lot of mice, budget mice in specific, get that wrong, and they just don't perform very well. They don't track accurately, and they feel, you know, built-in acceleration that shouldn't be there and stuff like that. I didn't feel anything like that with this. Now, take that, you know, as you will, because I am not necessarily the person that's most sensitive when it comes to mouse accuracy, or when it comes to like things like lower latency. So from my experience though, and the games I play, which is primarily Overwatch, I felt like I was very comfortable playing this, and I'd be willing to even use it in a competitive match on Overwatch, which is something that I can't say about a lot of mice that I do get frustrated with. So again, a little bit lightweight for me. If you do not like lightweight mice, I would say probably move away from this one, try and find something else. But generally the heavier mice are going to be more expensive. Now you can also get lightweight mice that are more expensive, but the cheaper mice generally are going to be lighter weight because they're made with cheaper materials and thinner plastic. They don't have weights in them, you know, or metal reinforcement or anything like that. But if you like a lightweight mouse that tracks really accurately and looks good, and you don't mind the green on the green LEDs on it, then it's definitely something that I would recommend people going with. So this is once again the Rosewill RGM-400. It's their gaming mouse, budget gaming mouse, $15. Very good, and I would highly recommend it if you're looking for a mouse in that price range, especially if you're using it for more competitive type gameplay. Anyway, everybody, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, let us know how we're doing, let us know what you like about the comment. Thanks again for all the followers here. We're getting pretty close to 600, so we just want to say that we really appreciate you guys and everybody that's watching our content, and we'll see you next time.